Hello, my name is Harry, and this is the Learn English with British Harry podcast. I have taught thousands of students, and these type of podcasts have really helped to improve my students' English. This podcast is designed to help you to be immersed in English. What does it mean to be immersed? Well, to be surrounded by English. And today I have a very interesting article for us to go through. The article here says why Swedes don't speak to strangers. In Sweden, casual chattiness is seen as needless since conversation is used for exchanging real, meaningful information. So this is quite interesting. We have some interesting words here. Casual chattiness. This means informal and light-hearted conversation, often without a specific purpose. For example, in many cultures, casual chattiness is common in coffee shops and public spaces. So this says in Sweden, having light-hearted or quick conversation is seen as needless, that it's not very important because they believe that conversation is used for exchanging or talking about important things. In many cultures, striking up a conversation with a stranger is the norm and could even lead to a budding friendship, but not for Swedes. So here, starting up. This is an interesting phrasal verb. This means starting, and it's often used with conversations or relationships. For example, she struck up a conversation with a stranger on the train. We have this word budding. Budding means to develop a friendship or career or a talent. So, for example, their budding friendship grew over time. So in many cultures, striking up a conversation, starting a conversation is quite normal. If you're in a shop or in a public space and you start to make conversation with someone, it's seen as quite normal. But in some cultures, it's not. Now, in the UK, depending on where you are, it can be normal or it can be a bit strange. In London, for example, which is very busy, it can be a bit strange for people to strike up a conversation. But personally, I have really improved in that aspect. And I think it's really nice to strike up a conversation with a stranger, just to simply ask them, hello, how are you? But in some cultures, people can be a bit isolated and it can be a bit strange for them to strike up a conversation. Here, small talk is seen as futile and is referred to as kallprat, cold talk, or dodprat, dead talk. To avoid ending up in these situations, many Swedes have made an art of avoiding eye contact with strangers and acquaintances they might come across in the street by looking at their phones or staring at shop windows instead. So here, this word futile. Futile means pointless or incapable of producing any useful result. For example, his efforts to persuade her were futile. She had already made up her mind. So, pointless. So here, small talk is seen as pointless. I think it's quite funny here where they mentioned it's an art of avoiding eye contact by looking at their phones. And this is very common. I've experienced this many, many times. Now that I quite enjoy making small talk because I think it's really nice to acknowledge the other person's presence. Basically, we are all in the same boat. We're all human. We're trying to make our way through life. And it's quite nice to initiate a conversation with a stranger. So when I get into a lift, for example, or an elevator in America, so when I get onto a lift, I like to make eye contact and say hello, and I look for clues to initiate conversation. So for example, if someone is carrying some shopping bags, I would ask them if they found any good deals today. Or a general question could be, how is your day going? Or the weather has been fantastic today. Or if you're in the UK generally, the weather is terrible today. So you're offering an olive branch for someone to initiate a conversation. And often, even if you're not in the mood to have a conversation, just having those small interactions and positive interactions during the day can make you feel better. But many people look at their phones and scrolling through their phones or looking at the shop windows to try and avoid eye contact. So for Swedes, the purpose of talking is to exchange meaningful information, and engaging in purposeless chit-chat simply hasn't been valued until now. So chit-chat. Chit-chat is light, informal conversation about unimportant topics. For example, the party was filled with guests engaged in small talk and chit-chat. For the past 4 weeks, Luleå, the 80,000 person capital of Sweden's northernmost county, has been encouraging residents to greet one another as part of an official campaign aptly called Sarge Hedge, say hello. The city is located so far north that residents see as little as 3 hours of sunlight in the dead of winter. Wow. Which may contribute to their reputation of being reserved. In fact, people in Luleå are known to speak so little to one another that the word yes is often replaced with a sharp intake of breath. Officials are therefore hoping the campaign may help lift the mood of locals, especially those who may feel lonely. So we have this word aptly. Aptly means in a way that is appropriate or suitable for the circumstances. For example, the campaign was aptly named Say Hello because of its focus on encouraging greetings. So it's specific, it's particularly appropriate. Now, here, so they say especially those who may feel lonely. Now, some people may not feel lonely. Some people may feel okay, they may feel very happy. So some people may genuinely not like making small talk, they don't feel lonely, they feel okay. But this campaign is designed to encourage people. Saying hello to your neighbors is a small thing, but research shows that it can contribute to social bonds and have a positive impact on health, safety and well-being, wrote city officials. Beyond Luleå, visitors to Sweden who attempt to start an informal conversation with a shopkeeper or waiter, even with the local greeting of hedge, are likely to be met with a flat hedge in response, often with a subtext of faint irritation or mistrust. Experts say this reserve could be due to Sweden being a sparsely populated country in a relatively vast landscape, whereby for hundreds of years people grew accustomed to rarely speaking with those outside their immediate circle. Subtext here means the implicit or underlying message or meaning behind spoken words or actions. For example, his polite words carried a subtext of frustration. So this is very common, especially in the UK. So people will come across as being polite, but there is a subtext, there's an underlying message of frustration, but they won't just come out and say, I am frustrated. So this can lead to not expressing your emotions, and it can lead to a lot of frustration building up. Now, so the research shows that saying hello can contribute to social bonds. So as simple as saying hello, because it makes you feel connected and part of the world, which is interesting because we have things like the internet, we have social media, and these things have made us more connected than ever before, but some people still feel isolated and lonely, because I think you need that real interaction in person. Being behind a screen is completely different. You miss out on body language, the tone of the voice. So it's very interesting and important to say hello in person. So this can contribute to social bonds and have a positive impact on health. So I think it can lower your stress, can lower your cortisol levels, make you feel better, so improving your well-being, feeling good. Okay, so another hypothesis is that this aversion to chit-chat could be linked to relatively low levels of immigration to Sweden until the 1960s. Minimal exposure to other cultures historically meant that Swedes were less likely to take up this decidedly un-Swedish practice. Here, this word aversion means a strong dislike or unwillingness to do something. For example, she has a strong aversion to public speaking. So it's something that you really don't like to do, or you're very unwilling to do. So it could be because of fear. For example, in this case, public speaking. It's a big fear for many people, being in a position where you have to speak to many people and you're the focal point. So let's carry on here. Yet, despite their seemingly cool exterior, Swedish people will almost always be polite and friendly, albeit simply in a different way to those from talkative cultures. In a country that reveres simplicity and practicality, it's best not to talk without a reason. So here, cool exterior. This means an outward appearance of calmness, detachment, or emotional reserve. For example, despite her cool exterior, she was deeply affected by the news. So from the outside, it looks like a person is very calm. They may seem detached, but they seem in control of their emotions. Reveres. This means to hold in deep respect or admiration. For example, in a country that reveres. So here, for example, in a country that reveres simplicity and practicality. So this means that Sweden greatly values simplicity and practicality. Something that you think is very important. So for them, this is something which they think is extremely important. So simplicity and practicality. So that was the article with some key vocabulary words. Now, if we go back to the top, now we can analyze and go through certain aspects in depth. So, is this unique to Sweden? Can you let me know, where are you from? And what is the culture with small talk? Firstly, do people make small talk, or do they not make small talk? And what do you think about small talk? Why is small talk important? In the article, they talk about social bonds, having a greater sense of well-being. Do you think that's the case? How does it make you feel when you make small talk? Do you feel better? it would be interesting to know. It's also interesting to think about the type of small talk. And like learning English, it always depends on the context. Some people may not want to make small talk. When do you think a person wouldn't want to make small talk? I would assume when a person is having a bad day. Maybe they've had something traumatic happen in their life. So when you try to make small talk and it doesn't work, I don't think you should take it personally. For example, if you try to say hello and how are you and you get ignored, or you see a sour face from another person, don't take it personally, because you don't know if something tragic has happened in that person's life and they don't want to talk about it, or they just may simply not be in the mood. But I don't think this should stop you from trying. I remember when I went into a bakery at a busy train station, and the person at the counter, before I paid or handed the money over for the sandwich, I asked the person, hello, I said, hello, how are you? And he just started to laugh. And I was confused. Why are you laughing? And he said to me that I was the first person to ask him that question. And at this point, it was 5 p.m. So he started work about 8 a.m. So throughout the whole day, no one had asked him how he was. They were simply paying for whatever they were wanting to buy. And in this way, a lot of social interaction has become transactional. When you go to a shop, it's just to buy something and then you leave. And the interactions you have with people is only transactional. So you'll only speak with people that you know or at work. But by just communicating with a stranger and asking them, how are you? How is your day going? It really meant a lot for him, and it made him feel better. It made him feel recognized that he was there, he existed. He wasn't just there to take your order, but he was there as a human being, so he felt really good. So small talk goes beyond, I think, the fear. Sometimes people may have a fear of initiating a conversation because they don't know if they'll get shut down. They don't know if the other person will be responsive or even wants to talk. But sometimes in life, you have to take the initiative. You have to be first. And it can be a ripple effect, because once that other person says hello back and you initiate a conversation, they may carry that on to the next person. And I think in terms of quality of life, what is your quality of life like day to day? And small things like this can improve your quality of life, because we all have stresses in life. We have to pay the bills, we have family problems, we may have health problems, but we are all human. We are in the same boat. And having this feeling, I think, is amazing. I think when you can make that connection with people, it makes you feel better about the day, because you're not in your own bubble. You're not thinking inside yourself all the time. You're thinking about the world outside of yourself. And an interesting point here is that they say that it may be due to the levels of immigration. So until the 1960s, immigration to Sweden was relatively low. Now it's started to pick up. So that could be another important point, that having diversity is important. When you live in an area which is diverse and you have exposure to other people, other cultures, I think it's wonderful, because it takes you outside of your bubble. And many people feel comfortable in their routine and not going outside of their comfort zone, because you know what to expect. Life is comfortable. You know who you're going to talk to, what you're going to talk about. But when you're exposed to new cultures, it may challenge your beliefs, your ideas. You can have more exposure to how different people think and talk, and I think it's really good. So, are you from Sweden or from a country which doesn't make small talk or casual or have casual chattiness? Let me know. And just to remind you, I have created a fantastic ebook. It contains 5 brilliant tips to help you to improve your English straight away. It's completely free, and you will find a link to it in my description. If you want to improve your small talk, I recommend watching this video next. It has some brilliant tips to help you to improve your small talk. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. So let me know what you think about small talk. Do you make small talk? Do you not make small talk? It would be really interesting to hear from you. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.